Hi, can y'all hear me? Let me get the chat up. Let me pull up the chat. Good. Hi. I'm assuming if you sign in with a name, I'm gonna use your name if that's okay. I also wanted to try something else. We're using Zoom now. I think we're liking this better. We're a little bit early. Let me go close the door and get some things ready. But I might want to try the raise. It depends on how many people we have participating today. But I might want to try the raising hand thing, and then we could hear your voice too. We'll play with that a little bit and see. So I'm gonna. What am I going to do here? Go to participants. Yeah. So I see my mic on. Jacob, do you see a thing where you can raise your hand? Or was that another platform? Or no? Can you all unmute yourselves? Yes.
I'm
Okay.
trying to find it.
Murshad, how do you pronounce your name?
Hi, Murshad.
Murshad.
Right.
Okay, so nice to see you there. So you have control of your mics. That's awesome. Either muted. Okay, Jacob, great. You're raising your hand. So what happens if you raise your hand? Does it unmute your mic? Anyway, if you have a question, let's try that. Let's try that. When we start in 10 minutes or so. Okay, so do I have to call on you? Well, let me try that. So Jacob, if you raise your hand, now do you say you're going to ask a question? Can you just ask your question? Are you unmuted now? You might
No,
have to.
ma'am. I think when you click on the participants at the bottom, it'll show the option to raise your hand.
Yes.
Or lower your hand. So.
Okay, so I can call. I think all I need to do then is call on people.
Yes, ma'am. And then I can just lower my hand once you do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, that's good. So everybody, I'll see you in about 9 minutes. Thanks for being here. I'm excited. I'll be back. I'm going to mute. Thank you all for joining. We're nice and early. I'm going to give us a few minutes and then I'll be back. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to start in a few minutes, so I'm staying muted. I've got 11:55, so I'll be back with the microphone on in just a few minutes, and we'll get started. So get your questions ready about any, it can be anything, but 2 weeks ago we did that application workshop. So if you have questions about your application, make a list. I'll be back. Perpetua, I like your butterflies on your wall. Nice background. That's fun. Okay, it is now 12 o'clock. Welcome everybody. We've got a nice group going here. Welcome. If in case any of y'all are first time participants here in our Club PreMed web chats, welcome. I hope to answer lots of questions today. In fact, today we're just doing questions and answers. I'm Dr. Judy Ann Calloway. I'm the Associate Dean for Admissions at a great medical school here in Texas. They're all great, but I'm here at Long School of Medicine. And one of our missions is, and one of my favorite things to do is be with you and help you on this journey to medical school, because it's not easy, right? So we're going to try, as you see, we've got, for the people who have been here before, we've got a new platform. We are loving Zoom, we think. This is the first time we're doing a big group, so let's see how it works. Bear with me. Let me say a word about that. You know, our campus is closed now. We've asked everybody to stay in place. A few of us have some access. So I am in my library. It's a little eerie, isn't it? This social distancing. So I hope you all are staying safe and staying healthy, but also connecting with people, you know, somehow at a safe social distance, but we can't lose these interpersonal connections, right? I think it's probably, if we're all in medicine or headed to medicine, it's a very important part of our future is connecting with people. So stay connected, you know, stay connected. So I'm loving having you here with us today. 2 weeks ago, the Club PreMed WebChat was on the application process, and if you're a reapplicant, that kind of thing. And at the end, then we said, you know, we can do a whole session on questions and answers, and that was popular. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to try to look at the chat, but I also, as long as 50 people don't have their hand up at once, we could also raise your hand, unmute your mic, and ask the question out loud. Okay. Yeah. So hello, everybody. Okay, and I'm looking at Sharon's ceiling. We're looking at your ceiling. That's okay. Yes. Lots of, yeah, the working from home thing. Yeah.
Yes, you're going to look at my ceiling. I've been on the phone constantly for 4 days getting PPE for my doctors in Lubbock.
Yes, great. No worries. No worries. So did everybody hear Sharon when she unmuted her mic? Okay. So who's going to give us the first question? Who wants to start us off? We could talk about, okay, Deli.
Okay.
Oh,
go ahead.
1 second. Was that Sharon? 1 second. So,
yes. Yeah. I'll do question number 2.
Okay. So Deli, I don't see you.
Hi, can you hear me?
There you are. Yes.
Yes. I just
Your volume is a little low. Try.
Can you hear me? Is it better?
This is better.
Yes. I wanted to ask. So if you have a lower GPA, cumulative GPA,
yes,
also a science GPA, and what would make you more of a competitive applicant? Would a high MCAT be a good supplement to?
Yes. So, and it's almost, I don't know what your perspective is. It's almost harder to work on a very low GPA than it is to work on an MCAT. You know what I'm saying? Because that GPA is cumulative. It's 4 years. You could start to make A's, but they're not going to move that needle as much as devoting a whole long period of time to the MCAT for one big push, right? So if you've got, it's all relative for one thing. So I do want to mention, if you're talking about a lower GPA that's like a 3.5 or a 3.6, you're good. And I don't know that needs grade repair, you know? So I think that is below a national, 3.4, 3.5 is going to be below a national average. I think our national average is 3.6 to 3.7. Our state average GPA overall, and overall in science are about the same, is like at a 3.7. So I would say at a 3.5, 3.6, you're okay. You want to still make good grades if you're still in school. You want to have a strong MCAT no matter what. But if we're talking 3.4, 3.3 and below, you do need to try to repair that you do need to try to repair that. So if you're finished with school, that's a little bit harder, right? You could consider a master's program. Some people do this, do a master's program to accumulate more hours at a higher level with a higher GPA. It really doesn't help if the science GPA, usually they're similar. So if the science GPA is about the same and lower, like 3.334, a master's in public health is a very common thing that people do. That might help repair the overall GPA, but what you want to really show is that you're strong in advanced science courses. So when people pursue a master's degree and have very few of those BCPM hours to show, then that's not helping as much as a master's in a science program. In Texas, we have a lot of familiarity with University of North Texas Health Science Center masters. They have a couple of different master's programs there, and we know that you're in classes with medical students, and so those are rigorous science courses. So I would promote that program or anything similar. I hope that helped. We can always clarify later. Thank you, Deli. Megan, and then Sharon. Let me see if
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I was just
Megan.
wondering, hi, I was just wanting to ask about my timeline. So I
Okay.
actually graduate a semester early. It'll be this December. And I don't really have a lot of clinical experience, but since I was graduating early and, I was planning on applying for the fall 2021 cycle,
Okay.
I was scheduled to take my MCAT this May, at the end of this May, and then I planned on doing my clinical experience in those 8 months after I graduated.
Okay.
But I realized that if I'm planning to apply for the cycle of 2021, that clinical experience in those 8 months probably won't be done in time for me to send in my application,
Right.
correct?
Right.
So should I just plan for the 2022 cycle?
I'm a fan of, if it's not, if you have seen my paper that says tips and pearls and things, one of the things I say is apply in your year, and that means make sure everything's as strong as it can possibly be. When there is a lot of stuff in the planned section, that can maybe not be the best presentation of all this, of a very strong application. So I think you're wise to consider it. I know, I've been there. I made 3 applications to medical school before it worked. I know how anxious we get to get going, to get in, to have this dream start. I know what that feels like. But if everything in your package is not as great as it would be next year, I think if you can arrange a year to do your clinical exposure, maybe get a job, a job with a scribing company would be excellent, because that's very close to the way you want to spend your life. You can rise up in that kind of a system to be a trainer, or they give you hard tasks to do. So I think planning a year and making a very strong application with 1,000 or more real hours in a clinical setting like scribing would be excellent. You can also then plan, as much as you've already done in your 3.5 years in college, you can also plan to do sustained, valuable service, right? You're not doing it to collect hours. You're not doing it to check it off of a box. You're doing it because this is the way you want to spend your life, giving, and giving serving people in a healthcare way. So you're not quite trained to do the doctor thing yet, but getting close to that healthcare realm and doing some service would be awesome. You could work on your personal growth plan items. You know what those are, right? We've talked about that. We can talk about that some more. So you all know I don't have a short answer for anything, but Megan, I think that that's a good idea. Was that, there was one other thing. Give me a second to think. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to mention that is relevant here. So sometimes people do start, they'll start something in May. They'll submit the application by the end of May. So they have a few weeks in the healthcare experience, right? But then they carry it out indefinitely, or, you know, for the next year, because that's what they're planning to do for the next year. And we see that you started in May and you have 10,000 hours or 4,000 hours. The committee notices stuff like that. They're supposed to be fixing the application so that you don't do it inadvertently and have it work against you. So at the time of submission, if you do have a planned activity that's going to carry out, it's going to roll over. You need to put it in the planned section. Okay, everybody got that?
Also,
I like this venue because I can see everybody or most everybody on the screen. Is that good, Megan?
yes, ma'am. I also have one more question. You talked about scribing. I was wondering which one looks better, scribing or being an MA?
Being
Medical
an
assistant.
MA. Okay, so you know, I'm going to talk about biases a little bit and perceptions. So be flexible how you're hearing this, okay?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
going to say this in a very respectful way. There are going to be all kinds of activities that we see in a season, okay? And in general, the perception might be, as a medical assistant, the perception might be that it's not a very high level experience. Okay? It is then important for anything that you all are putting in your applications. It's very important to make sure that you tell us about the value of that. And don't wait for, there's a new section in the application. If you have not applied yet, you'll see a section in the application that has, you may list up to 3 most meaningful experiences, okay? But don't wait for that section. You put it right in the item. If you're doing, you know, if you're listing a healthcare experience and you were a medical assistant and it was powerful for you and meaningful, be sure you tell us that and tell us why.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? So on the surface of things, scribing is going to appear to be a more valuable thing. This is my own humble opinion. You need to ask these questions of many to get other people's perspectives. But you need to take things that, so I always say the high value things are scribing and shadowing or apprenticing. But if there are other things in a related healthcare field that are very valuable, you need to explain that to us. You have to have interaction with a physician. So if you're listing something other than scribing or shadowing, you've got to tell us about your interaction with physicians. Okay?
Thank you so much.
So the hands, I thought maybe if you raised your hand, it would float to the top. Who has a question now?
Daniel.
Okay, hi Daniel. Did you raise your hand?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm not seeing it. So yes, please go right ahead.
Okay, so you were talking about scribing and shadowing. For scribing, I know like you need like certain amount of hours for scribing. Do you need hours for shadowing as well, or just like how does that work?
Yeah. So all of these, if you haven't seen it yet, and if you haven't, if you're going to apply for the first time soon and have not gone to TMDSAS, they don't have the new handbook yet out, but some of these, it's full of great information. The handbook is full of great information. So make sure you go there. Long School of Medicine does not have a minimum for a certain number of hours. When you go to that section that's called the personal biography in the application, it's going to say, do you have honors? You're going to say yes. And then a drop down comes and gives you the opportunity to list scholarships or team awards, academic and non-academic things. The next section is leadership, same thing. Do you have leadership activities? You'll see that, you'll click yes, and now it gives you the opportunity to list those things. On some of them, not the leadership or honors, it'll calculate the hours for you. So you say once a week, 5 hours, and I did it for 10 weeks, and then it calculates it to show us a total. Okay. So we don't have a minimum. And people ask, what should I do? It was irregular. What should I do? So you calculate the best, you put into the best of your ability, the truest values. Okay. We don't have a minimum. There are schools who look at a certain minimum. Okay. So again, you need to ask your questions of many. That being said, when we look at the number of hours on our software, we can pull out the number of hours, and it ranges from about 20 or 16 to 10,000, 20,000 for a person who is working as, they're working a job in scribing for the last 3 years. They're going to have a lot of hours in healthcare. So it's hard to figure the average, but we think a reasonable average that we see is 100 to 200 hours. Okay. Same for community service. We think that sounds like, again, I hate to talk about hours because you're checking a box. Okay. 99, 89, 90, 95, 100. I check the box, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for how meaningful was that for you? What is that experience, healthcare or community service or whatever it is? What is that healthcare? What does that experience mean in your story? Right? So somebody with 40 hours who has to support a family and they are working at a job with good pay and they're doing their other experiences as they can on weekends and things, we're going to see fewer hours,
Yes,
where's Daniel? You moved. Does that help you?
yes, ma'am, it did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, you're very welcome. Sharon.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How about you?
Okay.
I'm loving this venue. I'm sorry you're like having one of those work from home days, but it's wonderful to see most of you on the videos.
Well, thank you.
Connected. Yeah. So tell me.
Okay, here's my question. About 3 weeks ago, realizing where the world was going to be going with COVID-19, I had an April test date for MCAT, and proactively, I moved it to June the 15th before AAMC, or actually Pearson closed the centers in March and April. So I currently have a June 5th test date for the MCAT.
Okay.
I am concerned that, it's probably going to be extended, that the Pearson centers are going to be closed for a longer period of time. And for you on this call, my husband's a physician, he's an ER. So, I have another lens that I look through my world going through this.
Yes.
For me, selfishly, my only variable is my MCAT score. My question to you, Dr. Calloway, and it's your question, and it's not just you, it's going to be all of the medical schools participating in TMD SES. Are y'all going to anticipate you're going to do something with the timeline this year?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. I feel that you will. I'm making that secret assumption, but I would like for you to address that.
Yeah.
And here's this. Those of us that do, and of course I'll shoot you an email myself, but those of us that do have previous MCAT scores that were not good enough, but we want to submit the application, and I'm sure that's an individual decision for each one of us, but what do we do? Do we send it? Am I going to take, I mean, I may not be able to sit for an MCAT until July or August.
Right. That's so I'm glad you asked this question. There are so many conversations. My calendar, like yours, and my inbox pops up with new COVID information, new information about the institution, various groups wanting meetings. So the JAMP Council is getting together very soon. TMDSAS, we have been communicating on our listservs. TAP, the Texas Association for the Advisors for the Health Professions, we've answered these questions. We get information. The AAMC, in fact, we sort of didn't need them to tell us, but they did. They went out and put a recommendation that schools be flexible. Well, thank you, and we are. So we realized when the first thing, I guess the first thing we found out about was the closure of the testing centers. And so questions immediately started popping up, which we all started discussing. Our committee, I think, is pretty similar, operates in a pretty similar way to a lot of schools, and will be very flexible about all of these things that carry into your application. I would always say anyway that you need to, if you're waiting on an MCAT, whether you have an old one that you didn't like or you haven't taken one yet, you indicate on your application that you are taking another MCAT test and submit early.
So you're recommending that those of us in that situation, as I, would go ahead and submit as early as possible. That's what I was going to do with the June date anyway.
Here's the deal. TMDSAS has, say, I don't know how many things, but they have 100 things on their checklist to do to every single application. When you apply early, they don't have a lot going on. It kind of gears up. Now people are getting that message and doing a lot of early applications. But if they have 100 things to do and they get 99 checked off and they are submitting to schools, we see that. We are going to wait for that new MCAT or the MCAT to evaluate you. And last time we all talked, which was not that long ago, everybody does this. We go back into the applicant pool over and over and over every day. Somebody's looking into that applicant pool, what new MCATs have come through, who's getting complete. So when you submit early, if everything else is ready, you don't wait on your letters to have some message about the letters getting done either. You get your part done and submit it. We will see the MCATs as they come along. We also realize, related to this timeline, that everything may shift. Because we do this anyway, we have room for about 1,100 interviewees. We wish we could interview many more, but that's what we can do. We don't invite everybody in May, June, and July. That would be handy. It would get everything done. We would just sit back and let interview days happen, but we don't do that. We look into the pool and find the people all along the way, making sure we get to people who have applied early and applied late. The statistics would say that the early application helps you if you have sort of some average things in your application. Earlier seems to be better, but you don't ever rush to get it in early. Like you don't rush through that MCAT. That's another topic. It's another discussion. But we're going to be very flexible with that. Does anybody have questions about prereqs? We're going to be flexible. All the undergraduate institutions now that I know of have gone to an online. You're finishing your coursework online. See, stay connected though. Still study hard. And somehow that is related. I'm not quite sure. Haven't had that question answered, but somehow that is also related to changing to a pass-fail grade for this semester. May have to do with the actual testing. I don't know if y'all know, I'd be interested to hear. But our committee, and I bet everybody else in America for 150 medical schools, is going to be very flexible about a semester worth of pass-fail. We're going to a semester worth of prereqs that are passes instead of grades. So we're going to be looking at that. We will obviously look at other measures that are that we can put in that metric category. Sharon, did you?
One final question. Do you still anticipate it will open on May 1? Things may
Yes.
change after
yes.
that.
So there's no word now. I can ask that. I'm in contact. I'm sending.
Yeah, can you ask that in your group?
So I will ask. I was gonna say something else. Oh, watch TMDSAS also, because they're. I've spoken recently with Mr. Meeks, and he's starting a newsroom to respond exactly to those kind of questions. So that's one that he could get. We've put out some news there for him to post, so I think he'll post it in the next few days. So we have, thanks Sharon, we have, so I'm not watching the chat, I'm sorry people. Hang on just a second. We're gonna do, I saw another hand. Jacob, and then Sharon, lower your hand so I know we're done. I don't see any more hands besides Jacob. So Jacob, wait 1 second. Is everybody watching the chat? University of Houston has a really good 1-year biology master, so that's a great thank you for that. And how do master's programs rank in regards to admissions for masters in public health, masters in a non-science? Is getting an MBA for business experience. So it's beneficial. Master's is great. You want to pursue an interest, that's great. My comment previously was about repairing a GPA. Okay, there's the difference. A master's in public health is an excellent thing to do. Go for it. But it's not going to raise your science GPA. It's not going to, the committee's going to look for those BCPM, the science courses, and in a master's in public health, there aren't going to be that many. Okay. Do you see the distinction? So a master's or a pre-med oriented post-bac, both have great value. Okay. Daniel. Okay, so I'm going to do Daniel and then Jacob because it looks like Daniel was first. Okay, thank you. Isola, is that your first name? Thanks for answering, people. James Lilly. So let me answer James. I'm a reapplicant and trying to decide whether to start scribing now, living in Dallas. Yeah, okay. So, yes. Well, that's an interesting question that we have. I'm writing that down. Scribing and shadowing in the time of COVID-19. Our hospitals have asked that no medical students risk exposure. If the medical students are dissuaded or prevented from coming in, you all as pre-meds certainly will be. So I would say stay tuned, do something else clinical. What could you do with that time? Maybe you could make a personal growth plan, set an alarm. When you would be shadowing on Thursday at 1, go to a website, go to WebMD, go to like a good website. Go to Hippocrates and study some pharmacology. Look at pick a disease and find out all you can about coronary artery disease or diabetes in the eye. There's a good one. I can help you with resources there. You see what I'm saying? So if you can't be with a physician right now, you don't want to risk your family's health to go get a scribing job and come home to put them at risk. Do something else clinical. Does that make sense? That's kind of creative, like just off the top of my head. We could come up with some more things together, I'm sure. So that was Daniel. Oh no, that was James. Hope that helped. I think I answered early. I think I answered a question about early, submitting your application early. That's great about the pass fail. Okay. Okay. So Cassie, thank you. I can see all the hands raised. Are you telling me how to do it or other people? So do you all see, you have a raise hand function? Okay. I just wasn't seeing any, and I'm not seeing the questions in the chat. So if I've missed your question, unmute, just unmute yourself and holler and we'll put you in the queue, okay?
So I have a question real quick. So I went to Dell Medical School for a tour, and they the rate for minorities, like it's like 10%, like that's including African Americans, Hispanic, and like other and other people as well. So like my question is, how do you guys decide who gets an interview with like that percent, like that low percent of applicants that are minorities?
Yes. So thank you, Daniel. You can unmute, and then Jacob, I promise now we'll go to the hand queue. Okay, that's a good question, and I can't answer for Dell. You know, I can't answer for Dell, but I can tell you what we do, and this is one reason why we don't accept like all of these wonderful applicants you all come across in May and June and July. We could pull out 1,000 people, but we don't do it that way. We're looking for balance. We do statistics on our I spend hours looking at applications, but then also looking at statistics and where's our balance and where are our people who are underrepresented in medicine and that kind of thing. Right? If, for example, all the guys put all their applications in May and June and July, and all the women were coming later, we want balance. We want some balance, and we want representation all over the place. So the way our school does it is we look at that all through the season, weekly sometimes. Sometimes I give myself a break and do it every other week, but I hope that helps because it's very important. Do you know our statistics? Are they on our website somewhere? We're in the middle of changing whatever it's called, changing the website. So I'm not sure what is still there or is disappearing in the transition that we need to get back. But we have a nice balance of 45-55 for women and men. Our stats are rather competitive, I think. 3.8 and a 5.15 are our averages for last year. Right now we're sitting at a 3.8 and a 5.17, but we'll see how that shakes out. We have 30% of our class is underrepresented students who come from minorities who are underrepresented right now. So I'm proud of that balance. I think that, that makes it nice. And let me back up and say, we look for diversity in all kinds of ways. So thank you for asking, Daniel. Jacob, ready?
Yes, ma'am. Good. 2 questions, I guess. First one's probably a fairly simple question. So I'm a non-traditional student, currently active duty military, trying to figure out prereqs. Problem I have is my undergrad I went to a service academy. We were under trimesters, and every school that I look at, they talk about prereqs or semesters and quarter hours.
Yes.
How would the trimesters work?
Yeah.
Take.
So I'm not certain. You can email me later and tell me your institution. or if you want to tell me the institution, I can look up and see what other applications from there have looked like. I don't do, and our committee does not calculate anything. TMDSAS, you enter all that stuff into TMDSAS, they will calculate deficiencies according to the school's general guidelines, and it might show an hour deficient in a lab, or we have people on a quarter system that come across in the end with a 0.5 deficiency in biology and things like that. So we do see some quirky things for schools that are not on a semester system. And I can only speak for Long School of Medicine. When we look at somebody or lots of people and say, man, what a terrific person, can't wait for them to be a doctor, hope they're a doctor here, and accept that person, we are not doing all those calculations. So yes, you are agreeing in several places, by looking at the prereqs and in filling out that application, you are promising to do what you can to fulfill all those before matriculation. I haven't yet seen anybody who had so many deficiencies that they couldn't get them done, or that the committee was then concerned. It certainly is a reason that the committee could come back and say, okay, we can't let you in right now, there's too much missing. I just haven't seen that situation yet. So I think we're going to be able to work it out, Jacob. Okay.
Okay.
But there are schools who are going to be very particular and will need you to make up that half hour. But luckily, there are all kinds of like online places you can make up some things like that. So Aaron and then Udochukwu. Is Aaron first? Do y'all see the line of participants? Do y'all see that? Okay, so we'll try to go in order there. It looks like the hands are popping up. That's awesome. And I'll try to make short but sweet answers. Aaron.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm kind of backtracking to your earlier question about the low GPA repair.
Okay.
So like with that low GPA in the repair range, are you saying that like a post-bac or a master's program would be more beneficial than maybe showing a strong MCAT? Is that like an either or thing?
No, you have to have both. You have to have
okay.
and I don't think I ever addressed that part of it. Making a strong show, like presenting a very strong MCAT in the setting of low GPA, people are going to consider that as current science that you have mastered. So that would be, it doesn't make up for it exactly, but it's going to get you some action. It's going to,
Okay.
I think schools are going to show you some love with that. Okay?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Answer you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Udochukwu, am I close?
Yes, you're close. That's fine.
Okay. How do you say it?
Udochukwu.
Udochukwu. Thank you. I have the huge honor of sometimes announcing names at our white coat ceremonies and our graduation for the last couple of years, and I make an effort to really get things right because I think it's important, Anyway, Udochukwu, what question do you have for us?
Okay, so my question is kind of regarding shadowing stroke research. Okay, so right now I was shadowing a doctor and we were also doing some clinical research.
Okay.
But due to the COVID-19, it's been brought to a stop.
Okay.
So when putting it on my application, how would that work because the research is not complete?
I think, we're all going to look at this. This time is going to stand out. Just, I don't know where y'all were, but 9/11, every time we come across that date, it brings back memories of terrible things and challenges and the good that comes out of that situation. We're going to know that or the hurricanes, Harvey, Katrina, we recognize, people who look at applications will recognize this season as a very challenging time. So you are just going to write, although interrupted by the COVID crisis in America, Here's what I learned from this experience. Remember in the application I told workshop a couple weeks ago, I told you do good, better, best. Good to list the activity. Better to tell us a little bit about what you did in that activity, but the very best thing you can do is all three. List it, tell us a little bit about it, and in those 300 characters, try to tell us what was meaningful, you know, how it played a huge role in your story, right? So I think that is not, I think it's going to be okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Am I addressing what your needs there?
Yes, that was perfect. Thank you.
Great. I think we'll all remember this for a long time. So Aaron and Udochukwu, could you undo your hands maybe to help me keep track? Perpetua, thank you. Oh, did Perpetua go away? Perpetua, are you there? Aziz, I saw you in the chat, Aziz. I'm sorry. We're ready for your question.
All right. Can you hear me right?
Yes. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, ma'am. That's perfect. So it's relating to research. I was wondering, how is research weighed on the application? Is it more of a necessity, or is it recommended? Or is, you know, could you have an enormous amount of like extracurricular activities as far as shadowing and whatnot that would kind of like,
Yes.
I guess, balance your lack of research?
Yes. And I think we've got that recording from 2 weeks ago that we can send you all. If you email Jasmine, she's going to kill me for saying this, but email Jasmine that you want that PowerPoint. And in there, I believe that we talked about the personal biography, and there are some high value things in the personal biography. You have to have healthcare, and you really should have the high value things, the apprenticing or shadowing and the scribing. Okay. You have to have service, because that's our view, and most schools' view of a great future physician is somebody who's so interested in the healthcare field and they're serving already. So those are two essential areas. The area of research is absolutely not a deal breaker for Long School of Medicine. Absolutely not a deal breaker. So we have quite a few people who interview or who come to our school with that acceptance, who, when it says, do you have research activity, they put no, but that's fine, because they built their story a different way. So it's not a deal breaker for us, but again, you need to ask the questions of many. Thanks, Aziz. Was that your question that was in the chat?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And anything that you don't want to share outright, you can email me and I'll skim the chat a little bit later. It's just like, I do have like an attention thing. So I can't do it simultaneously. Maria, I hope are the hands staying in order? Hopefully. So Maria, looks like you're next.
Hi.
Hi.
Me?
Yes.
Okay, so I was going along with the research questions. I'm actually interested in MD PhD programs.
Okay.
I was wondering how the application process differs from just applying at medical.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you. That's a very good question. And schools are going to do it differently. For our school, a couple of schools, that program, you've got MD PhD and you've got MD PhD and MS medical scientist training programs, right? So our school now is a medical science, has achieved that level, medical, what is it? Medical science
MSTP.
Training, MSTP. Is that what it stands for, right?
Yeah.
So our MST program accepts applications only through AMCAS, okay? So people apply through AMCAS. Sometimes we have some awesome research going on here. We have NIH Clinical Trials Center, Cancer Center, what else? There's another one. Anyway, we have an aging center. We have big NIH. We have more funds from NIH for our aging center than any medical school in America. There are 12 medical schools. I'm bragging now. but that's okay. I'll tell y'all, we'll do a web chat on how great long school medicine is after I just tell you this little piece. Those 3 huge efforts that we have in research, there are only 12 medical schools in the country that have all 3 of those. We have all 3. My point is there's a ton of research here, about 70% when we ask at the end in an anonymous surveys, about 70% of our students end up doing research. Some have never done it before and get all the guidance and help that they need. So my point is, if you know you want to be a medical scientist, you can apply through the AMCAS system to that program. But we do have a lot of students who also apply to the regular MD program, knowing that they can get some good solid research done here in all kinds of areas, any area that you want really. And what else? And we offer that distinction in research. So you can pursue a great project, follow several guidelines that are not very stringent at all. And then your diploma says MD with distinction in research. Okay. Does that help you? So
Yes, ma'am.
people who apply to AMCAS and TMD-SAS, we assume on our side for the regular MD program that you're interested in our regular MD program. And sometimes consider that separately. So sometimes we interview people who had applied to both. We interview people and the MD PhD program doesn't, and vice versa. Okay.
Okay.
And we end up with, we accept somebody and then they come up on the MD PhD programs list for acceptances and that kind of thing. So if you just want to be considered by both, you apply to both. Okay. Okay, good.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Maria. Cassie. I'm liking this hand thing. How do you like it? And you've got like a thumbs up. This is good, right? I think this is better than WebEx. Yeah, thanks. Okay, Cassie.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon. I have 2 quick questions.
Yes.
One of them is I'm doing an informal postbac. So I graduated in May 2019, and I'm not necessarily in the GPA repair range for my overall, but I wanted to strengthen my science GPA
Okay.
while I'm out of school. So I was just wondering how those classes are viewed, because I'll be taking them. I'm taking them currently at my local university, and also how summer classes will be viewed if I apply this May and continue to take courses.
Yes, so the summer grades we wouldn't see those until this interview cycle, you know, even when the committees of everything's in and done and reports are in, interviews are done, reports are in, we're not going to see it really, the summer ones. But we'll know you're in there, you know, we'll know that you're taking it. Does that science GPA need the repair? Is that what you're saying?
Just a little bit. I was
Yeah.
advised, I've talked to a few people and they said that it would just be good for me to bump it a little bit, but not
Okay.
necessarily pursue a full master's.
Uh-huh.
And so that's why I didn't apply for any during my gap year, but I figured I would continue my education while I could.
Yeah, I think that's fine. And people will look at that in a positive way.
Okay, perfect. And then my second question is regarding letters of recommendation.
Okay.
So since I graduated in 2019, I completed my health professions committee process as a junior.
Okay.
So my committee letter was done in 2018.
Okay.
And so ever since, every year, even if I wasn't applying, I updated it.
Mhm.
And so this cycle, I have an updated letter. So it will say updated in 2020.
Okay.
A new letter, but would you prefer that I just go for 3 new standalone letters, or would you recommend I continue to use my packet?
So we like packets, you know, we like the committee packet, and it's there, and your undergrad, you're lucky that your institution will do that for you, because some, I think it's hard to get that renewed committee letter, right? So I would do that. I would use that. And then just find somebody you are apprenticing with, somebody you are working with, a professor in your post-bac classes to do a more recent professor letter or employer letter, that kind of thing. So I would add those as one of your extras.
Okay, so I would continue to submit my committee letter because I'm not 100% sure if my school, they're updating it, but I don't know if they're updating their letter that's, you know, at the front of the packet.
Uh-huh.
I think they might just be tacking on the letters that I'm sending in.
Okay.
So would you just recommend that I submit that committee letter anyway, and then use my extra letter like you recommend, right,
Yes.
Professor?
Yes. I
Okay.
would.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Let's see who's next. That was Cassie. Io Isola. Am I close?
Yes.
Pronounce it for me.
Io Isola.
Okay, Io Isola. Good.
Can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes. Can you all hear him?
So I graduated in 20, and then I worked for 1 year as a autism therapist in a clinic, and then I went and got a master's degree in biology because at the time when I graduated, I didn't think I was as strong as an applicant.
Okay.
And then I've gone through this kind of like second career or second like try almost, and I've done a lot better. I feel like, should I address this in my application somehow, or should I just, I don't know what the best way of like addressing this in my application.
Yeah, you clicked out a little bit for me. And so what are you trying to, tell me again what you're trying to, so it's interesting. I wish I could listen to everybody's story because everybody, you know, the paths are all different to medical school, and it's fantastic. So it sounds like some great things. You finished school. I missed the part, what are we trying to address? I heard you finished school. There are a couple of interruptions in your Wi-Fi or your feed or something, and the autism job sounds like a very meaningful thing. What else?
So I did the master's program after that in bio, and then I wanted to know, should I address the fact that I think that I'm a lot different now than I was years ago? Yeah. So the personal statement or someone else?
Yes. Had you applied before?
No.
Yeah. It's just a lot of things have changed and you've grown.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say, I think those are really good themes for somebody who's been out for a while, to share with us that growth that you've accomplished, you know, and how you did it and what those experiences did for you. That's kind of a good, if not a theme, it's a good way to organize your personal statement.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. Here's my growth, you know. I like that.
Okay. All right.
Did
Thank
that
you.
help you? You're welcome, Io. Next is Syed. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I wanted to ask about, so medical scribing. Right now I'm looking in my gap year and I was trying to decide between a job as a medical scribe and an MCAT tutor. So I was gonna do both, but I don't think I could like handle the hour load. So I was wondering, do you think it would be frowned upon to like choose the MCAT tutor job over the medical scribe job, just because I feel like it might be more like intellectually stimulating for me?
Okay. If you also have plenty of healthcare experiences, apprenticing or scribing, and you're choosing this to be intellectually stimulated, I think that's a great reason, and certainly will keep your science brain working. So if everything else is there, then I think that would be fine. You have to have you really should have the high value things, but the MCAT tutoring, that's a nice thing to put under leadership, you know.
So in regard to that, I have like quite a few volunteer hours, not shadowing, but volunteer. I probably have over 200. And then for shadowing, I have about 50. I know that's more on the lower side of things, but do you think that'd be enough to go the tutoring route?
I think so. I think that sounds good. And you want to, I don't know when you're applying, but you want to do things in a sustained way. So even if you go shadow a little bit more here and there, you might even get some more in by the time you submit an application, you know? Yeah, I think that sounds fine.
Thank you.
That sounds fine. Well, except that here we are in COVID, you know. So
yeah, so it's kind of
never mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
That may be different. You're very welcome. Rashad.
Hi, Dr. Kellaway.
Hi.
My question is for the biography section of your application. Should you complete all 15 activities?
Should you complete all 15?
Yes, because I've heard that also you don't want to, I guess, waste the admission committee's time putting some experiences that are just more like fluff.
Oh, do they limit it at 15?
Yes,
Oh,
I think
okay.
so. Or is that MCAS? I'm not.
That would be AMCAS.
Okay.
I've been in the TMDSAS system for decades. And
That's AMCAS that limits to 15.
Got
you,
it.
Sharon.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sharon.
Okay.
But I do have advice always. When I get to look at somebody's application for the next time around, sometimes I notice people have done 8 hours, 10 hours. They've spent a day with a physician, 2 days, 2 afternoons, so it's not adding up to much. And those kinds of things, they're all apprenticing experiences. They might be different specialties and different people that you're with that on various days, but you could combine those and say various apprenticing experiences or apprenticing, and then in your description you have combined those to say tell us the meaningful things, and you can tell us you can add up the hours, so now it's not 8 and 8 and 4 and 6, but it's 25 or 45 or something. It adds up, and then you can write about it as a whole.
Okay, and similar to that, for research, if I had a poster presentation, a conference, and research hours, would you recommend me to list it as one?
Yes, attending a conference.
Right, and a
That's
poster?
related to your research. Did
Yes,
you
ma'am.
present?
I'm sorry? Yes, I did present.
So I think that would be one item.
Okay.
Attending, so people do put down that they attend a conference or a leadership seminar. You're learning some things, you're attending things. I think that those are perfectly wonderful experiences. There might be some things that are higher value. So actually presenting at the conference like trumps everything.
Right.
So you want to make sure you put that in there.
Great.
And this year in this application for 2021 cycle, you are going to have the opportunity to list your publications and presentations.
Okay, and last question is, if an article is in review and it hasn't been published yet, how would I list that?
I would list it as submitted and under
Okay.
review.
Great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Sometimes people put the number. I don't know if you submit it, does it get a number yet? Or is that only for?
I haven't opened
I see some
DFTS
shaking
yet.
heads. So anyway, just put that it's submitted though.
Great.
Thanks, Marshad. You're welcome. Tanvir. Was that close? How do you pronounce your name?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Tanvir.
Okay, great.
You got it right on. I had a question about post-bac classes and SMP classes.
SMP.
Specialized master's program
Oh, okay.
classes. So for this fall, if I can't do a post-bac program or SMP program, but I still need help with the science GPA, what are your suggestions on how to improve that without going through one of those programs? Because I was a chem major, so I've taken all the main science courses. I don't think there's any science courses left to take.
Yeah.
With my
for prereqs, you mean?
Prereqs and also higher level science courses as well.
Okay. Biology, I mean, you want to do another, so it kind of depends on like how many hours do you need to show that you have strength in science, right? So we look at the GPA all different ways. If it's rising, that's a good thing. You can always, we have people with non-degree seeking coursework in sciences. I'm not sure what the financial burden commitment would be if you're just attending school without a degree plan. I'm not sure. I suppose a second master's is possible. The other thing, I guess, it depends on like how old, look how old your things are. And Fresh Start, there are a handful of people every year who really do benefit from that, the state's program for Fresh Start. It does tell you that you have to sign up for a new bachelor's degree, you know. But when you get to wipe out in a, this may not be your situation, but when the GPA is very low, sometimes that's the best way. And we're looking at a 2021 cycle. So if somebody was in school in 2011 and 12 and 13, those things could be, or prior to 2011 could be wiped out. But you do have to sign up for a new degree plan, so that might not help you either. I feel like I don't have a lot for you, so I'm going to think about it some more. You know,
Okay.
aside from another master's program, or send me your particulars, and I'll see if I can think of anything else.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Pangtigala.
Hi. Can you...
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Pronounce your name for us.
Ponti.
Ponti. Okay, good.
Hi. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yes, you're welcome.
I'm a non-traditional student, and I do have kids, and I was actually planning on taking or retaking the MCAT in early April.
Okay.
Now,
tell me the first part again. I'm sorry, the chat distracted me. So we're going to get to Perpetua also, just because her mic's not working. So we'll do that in a question or two. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
Tell me again. What was the first part?
I'm a non-traditional student.
Okay.
And I do have kids.
Okay.
And so I'm kind of struggling now with, you know, the schools are out, and so kids are home, and so I really don't have that time that I needed to prepare for MCAT.
Yeah.
And so and I know, you know, obviously to take the MCAT when I'm ready, but how, I guess, late, or how further can I delay to still be sort of early? And I know early is going to be really subjective this time around.
Yes, it is. And I think we're all going to sort of shift our timeline a bit. We do it anyway. So here's what I have to tell you. When you can give it full effort, be really, really ready, have time to take many practice tests, and you feel like you're ready. If that is July or August, then that's what you need to do. If you come across in later, if you come across early with an MCAT score that's below average, below the national or state average, that doesn't help you too much, right? We're looking at all kinds of other things. But if you come across in November with a 520, people are going to find a way to interview you. Okay, that's just the fact, you know. Yeah. So you want to give it everything you've got. It is certainly not everything. I pray for you moms who have kids at home now, and you're trying to homeschool them and do the packet on Google. Oh my goodness.
Well, my kids are younger, but
okay.
I mean, come with that. They have
so
those
get extra prayers for that. They still have to stay busy and all that, but I think we're going to realize all that's hard, you know?
Yeah. Okay. And so then a follow-up question with that, for that, is that if I have to take like a July MCAT or something like that,
yes.
Should I go ahead and apply when the application opens, or should I just wait for that MCAT score?
I don't think it hurts you. You know, I don't think, I just really don't think. We have so many reapplicants, and we just don't even look at that status when we're delving in. When we delve into when we dive into the application, then we see, oh, okay, this is a person who's applied previously. We do look at what you had to offer before. The scores come up anyway. So I don't think it hurts, because what if everything just comes together for you and people are reviewing your application in October and finding you a spot to interview. You can't, I don't think you can lose.
Okay.
You know?
All
So
right.
yeah, I would do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. That was, so where are we? Could y'all take your hands down? I can't do it, I don't think, unless you still have a question. Tanver, Rashad, thank you. Unless you have another, unless you want to be in the queue again. So right now, while y'all are undoing your hands, amen, and then Perpetua, you're going to come next. Amen. Is that how you say it?
Yes, ma'am.
I love it. Okay, amen. You're up.
So I'm a non-traditional student and I graduated in 2013. So I took the time in between to make sure that I was working and taking care of my family, and I started a specialized master's programs a year and a half ago in medical sciences because my undergrad GPA was not that good. So in terms of applications, how does the committee look at your recent GPA compared to your undergrad GPA that was a while ago? Because I know some schools have these certain policies where they'll look at certain hours taken. Just
Yes.
wanted to know where you guys fell on that.
Yes. So we do look, so, you know, we occasionally see somebody with, here's what we see, like not that uncommon, is somebody has done a graduate program and it's a master's in public health and they have 8 science hours. It's a 4.0. Their science GPA is a 4.0, but it's 8 hours. Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah. So
part of it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. So like, I know, like, so the school that I am in has a lot of students who are from schools from Louisiana and from Texas.
Uh-huh.
And I am a Texas resident, but the schools in Louisiana have these policies where you have these 32 hours of graduate work and they replace all of your undergrad GPA if it's above a certain level.
Oh, okay.
I know for a fact that I haven't explicitly seen that anywhere on a Texas school.
No.
But I don't know if it's implied with committees or something. So yeah.
No, so the way our application shows us the information is, I counted once, it's about 16 ways. We see the GPA by semester. We see it divided into science and non-science. We see what's AP credit or dual credit from high school. We see it about 16 different ways, okay? Mm-hmm. We always look at, if we're reviewing an application with a lower GPA, we always look at, like, what has the trend, what are the most recent hours look like?
Okay.
Right? So yes. And most everybody learns how to, like, they get a groove going, and so things look better and better going on most of the time. So yeah, right. we would see that.
And so my follow-up to that was, since it's a specialized master's specific to the first year of a med school, it's basically the same classes.
Yes.
Does that look better compared to doing some classes at a community college or like at a local school, or like retaking older classes?
Yes, I think that looks very good because we're assuming some level of rigor there. You know, right. You need higher level science. You need some ways to show that you have great scientific acumen. You know your advanced science. So no, I think that's very good. If it's not clear, sometimes it'll come across as the school, and it'll say other masters. We have to dig for that. Sometimes it's even in the application as other. So it might be on our Texas application, it might be something you want to use that third essay for, that optional essay, to say, I was in with my peers were fellow medical students. You know? Just so we know, because we're not always we know some of the Texas programs pretty well. And again, UNT, being the one we're most familiar with, but we may not really know that it's that medical master's where you're spending time
right
with medical students. So tell us, make sure that's clear somewhere.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Amen. Was that it?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so Perpetua's having trouble with her mic. Hi, Perpetua. The question is, there's a higher GPA, but MCAT less than 510. So would it then put you in a position not to be considered? I don't think so. So less than 500, less than the national applicant pool, the Texas applicant pool, just to give you like, let me give you some relative numbers. You all can find them if I'm off a little bit. But the applicant pool is probably a 505, 506-ish. National average for 2018 was a 510. National average for last year, entry into in the summer of 2019 was a 511. So it depends on how low, but so I don't think it's gonna put you in a position not to be considered at all by any means. And it would just depend. Later you can tell me where you are exactly, and I can maybe give you a little more specific advice. I would say that 510, if you know, I think you should probably get interviews at some schools. But again, I'll say, if you have the opportunity, if anybody has the opportunity to devote some time to serious 8 to 6 scheduled, organized study, planned study for MCAT, using the MCAT tools, using the Khan Academy tools, and you devote 3 months, if you can. Sometimes the situations won't allow it, but if you can, people have great success with that. When I ask a person who has gone from a 503 to a 513, how did you do that? So I can tell people. Here are the common answers that I get. I realized I was not taking the test seriously, is sometimes how they put it. I wasn't recognizing the test for all its all it required of me. That's another way they put it. And so I took a different perspective on it and really devoted time. And the kind of time, and Mr. Manassi from Kaplan is going to speak to us in the next web chat in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and he'll tell you the same thing. The people with the greatest success are able to devote that period of time to it. But really, whether you have a course or whether you're doing it on your own, you can do it. You need discipline. You need a good plan that the AAMC and Khan Academy can help you with, and you need to stick to the plan. You know, did that help you? Are you good? Okay. So Io, do you have another question? Your hand is still up. Valbona Lumani.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, yeah, number one, thank you so much again. I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's fun. It's like one of my favorite things to do.
That's good. So I graduated in 2017, did a post-bac at UTD until 2018. And I recently spoke with my advisor about this, but it would just be nice to get a different perspective. So after that, I, wasn't accepted in medical school. This would be my second time. But due to, financial stability, I needed to get a full-time job. So currently I'm working a full-time job and then another part-time job. However, I'm still doing my clinical activities, of course not right now due to COVID-19, but still carrying out those necessary clinical requirements and doing what I need to do and things that I want to do. I love volunteering at Children's Hospital, and that's something that I've done for almost 2 years now. But in terms of having a full-time job not related to medicine, so it's a sales job, how does that look on an application? Do you guys view that as, are you guys understanding in the sense that people have full-time jobs that might not, relate with medicine?
Yes. This, it does relate to non-traditional person applying for medical school. Out a year or 2 or 10, There are a couple of things. I think it's mentioned. I think we mentioned it in the workshop, and we do have some topics that come across as like strictly non-traditional web chat. You still need to be current in some of the major things like healthcare, you know, healthcare and community service. So if you're doing that, people are going to understand.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Let's see what else. So Anna or Ana Garcia, how are you?
Yes, hi. I was wondering about the shadowing and volunteer programs because I was trying to go abroad in shadowing. Would that like maybe not increase my chances of getting in, but like for you guys in the mission, would it be more like eye-opening? Be like, wow, she did this. Like putting myself out there in admissions programs.
So you've done like healthcare mission things. Is that what you've done?
I'm trying to get into, I'm in this program and I'm trying to go abroad for shadowing purposes.
Okay.
And I'm doing shadowing purposes in the US.
Okay. Both. So, so I think all of those, if you've got both, that is gonna look good. You know, you tell us about the meaning of it, and that's gonna be the best way to present those activities. It made me think of the way the committee functions has typically been for years. If people have only non-US healthcare experiences on missions, or you're visiting family in your country, in your home country, and you get to work with physicians or in a clinic in your in another country, the committee, some committee member or another is going to say, well, gosh, I wish they had US healthcare experience. Now I think it's shifting a little bit. I mean, we're learning how to be flexible for all kinds of reasons. And because sometimes it's difficult, I worry that one of the repercussions from this virus is going to be that it's difficult to get apprenticing or shadowing experiences already. And I wonder if this is going to make it a little harder for people. But if you have both US and non-US healthcare, I think that that's fine. I think that that sounds great. Am I missing something?
I'm still not doing the abroad one. I'm doing it this summer.
Okay.
But I have been doing shadowing on the US mainly.
Yeah, that sounds great. And you put that other one in your planned activities, you know?
Okay.
Yep. Sounds good.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Let's see, who is next? If I'm missing anything in the chat, if somebody would just like, can I just read this from Delhi? So thank you, Delhi. For clinical experiences in COVID time, maybe signing up for delivery of groceries for the elderly or immunocompromised folks. I think those services have been popping up in communities and neighborhoods. I think that that's great. Now, I don't know that I would call it clinical. Do y'all hear that on your campuses? That we have been asked, and we took it to our Dean's Council meeting, the difference or the value of clinical experience versus healthcare. And we really don't draw that distinction. So thank you for sharing that, Deli, because I think that that's a wonderful idea. But we would still want a person to have, you have to have real experience where you're in a room with a doctor who's taking care of a patient and their family, okay? But that's a great idea for community service. And I'd put it under service even if it's paid work, you put it under service. Let's see. So I think how is telescribe viewed for by admissions? That's fun. I think it was last year we got our first applicant who was working with Robin. Do you all know Robin? Robin is a virtual scribing system in Austin. And the committee went, you know, people were talking about all these wonderful things and the scribing experience and telling this person's story, and it was all sounding wonderful. It was wonderful. And somebody said, well, hey, wait a minute, this is virtual scribing. And so we were all, you know, people then like perked up their ears, and we all tried to decide what we thought of that. And this is, I think it's a sign of modernization, and you have to stay current. And I think our committee will stay current with things, things that change along the way for the pre-med process. And so now we've seen a few people in the last cycle who are current, newly accepted or in the wait pool, and people that we interviewed. We've seen a couple of different people who have done virtual scribing. We still want there to be a personal connection. You learn so much about healthcare, about doctoring in any scribing experience. So that's the value there. The value of holding a person's hand, handing a person a book or a tissue, or sitting with a person and reading the Quran to them, or that what I call heart-to-heart, hand-to-hand experience that can be there even in certain scribing situations, and even in some in some apprenticing or shadowing experiences could be lacking in being a virtual scribe. Because we want people who have altruism and compassion for people, we will be looking for those kinds of experiences too. So virtual scribing is a thing of, you know, a thing of the present. So it's a, I'm sure you're getting a lot out of it. Yes. So somebody writes about being worried about this gap in their experiences because they're really stuck because of the family situation. Again, we mentioned it earlier, not wanting to go out there and get shadowing or clinical experiences because you're bringing that risk home to people who may be people at risk. I think we're all going to understand that I think we're all going to understand the gap. So I don't think you need to worry. But again, in case you missed it, so maybe instead of doing that, think of something creative. And if you think of things and want to share them, we'll put them on the next web chat. But I had just, it popped to the top of my brain somehow, miraculously. You could, instead of taking that time that you're going to go shadow, get online and go search WebMD, or learn about a disease, or explore some things that are out there. Teach yourself something about healthcare online. Read a book. Read a book about healthcare challenges, or just a book about somebody taking care of a medical humanities book would be a fantastic way to spend that time. And then tell us you did it. And then that could maybe go under healthcare, but maybe more appropriately under extracurricular, that you, in this time of COVID, you couldn't do some things that you wanted to do. So here's what you're doing about it, and list it there. And I think that will show the committee you are committed to this and want to make the most of it. So thanks for asking that question. Is working as Evangelina, 1 second. But you'll be up next. Is working as a CNA at a nursing home versus a hospital viewed differently? So I think people will look at the role of a CNA, and because lots of people on the committee are physicians, all but one on our committee currently, they might have, here we're back to bias, right? They might have perceptions about what a CNA does, because they've had some exposure or maybe even like limited exposure to a person in that role. So you have to tell us in that application, either in that activity or in your personal statements, what was valuable about that. So I wouldn't say that a nursing home, being a CNA at a nursing home or a hospital is like one is better or they're viewed differently. You just have to tell us where that fits in your story, what you got out of it, what was valuable. Tell us about those experiences interacting with people and helping people. Okay. Evangelina, you're up. Hi.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
I can hear you.
Great. Okay, so I've loved all of the questions so far, and I'm excited to see everyone take on their own path. I would like, so I don't really hear this a lot, but I'm interested in becoming a dietitian. And I know that it's going to look interesting because my internship, if I get in, is going to be for this upcoming year. And I was wondering, since we have like clinical rotations, does that count as clinical experience, or does that count more as healthcare experience?
Tell me what you're doing. Tell me what okay. So did you hear that question? Does it count as clinical or does it count as healthcare?
Yes, I heard you make that distinction earlier. I know that you'll be working.
Really make the distinction, but tell me what you're doing in the experience and I'll tell you where I would put it.
Gotcha. So from what I know, as an intern, you work mostly shadowing dietitians, and you kind of get to see how doctors make the orders and how mostly it's like the interplay between dietitians and doctors in the interprofessional setting. And I think that's like the most that I would get, I guess, like experience with physicians, but it is like patient-centered, if that makes sense.
Yes. So you haven't started it yet, right? I bet in your program, they will give you goals. You know, it's an internship. So I'm expecting that they're going to give you objectives to meet, right? You might make sure that they cover some things besides what you're studying, besides that subject matter. You make sure that that covers things like how is the team operating. I'm in this hospital setting. You want to observe all that you can about what the doctor is doing. You know, the settings, what kind of things that your patients, what are the patient needs? You know, on a transplant floor, there are going to be very important nutrient things to cover. But those are sort of vital. That's a vital role to play. Others less so, maybe. GI floors and things, you know, will have some important impact for patients. So just make sure that you're telling us the importance of what you're learning. I would put it under healthcare. It's not going to be quite shadowing, but you're going to be in a setting where you might meet somebody and say, I'm headed for medical school. Can I please, are there times when I could watch you? Right? Gotcha. So you take that as a valuable experience, find the value in it, but then launch into something else. You know, maybe. Not sure if that will happen, but you could try.
That sounds good.
Okay.
I also had one more question, if we still have time.
Yes. Yes.
What are some recommendations for students to ask or look for in the AAMC Virtual Med School Fair?
What is your, so I think we answer all kinds of questions at the fair. Somebody else, I know some of y'all, I've seen your names. Is Perpetua still here? And you've been to the AAMC virtual fairs. What did you get out of it? Let's help Evangelina with some goals for Friday. Do you all know that on Friday, the AAMC as a virtual fair. They realize that we have had to cancel all of our visits to schools, which has really been sad, but we're doing some more of these kinds of things, and the AAMC then put out an extra fair. So resources, we get questions about a pre-med path. We get lots of questions about how our school stands out. You know, what is our school, what are the schools looking for in an applicant, or do you have this, do you have that? So those are a lot of the questions that we answer. We could do a web chat just about like how great law school medicine is, because we've got it all and we do it all really well. Did I tell you all about our match? So we have a fantastic match every year, 98.5 to 100%. And this year, every single person who entered the match got offers. Every single person, 100%. 99.5 are going to start an internship here. So it's we know how to get you down the road. Anybody else want to? Oh, Perpetua's mic's not working. Let's see. Did you? So Sharon, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
So help Evangelina and anybody else know what you got out of, or what to sort of do at the virtual fair on Friday.
Okay, with the, I've been to 3 or 4 virtual AAMC events. I've also been to 2 live AAMC minority student events last year, and then this year, this fall in Phoenix. What that's good for, you go into a virtual chat room with each individual school, and I believe Long is participating, along with not all of our Texas schools, but many of them. So the kind of questions that you have asked today are the kind of questions you ask in that chat room for each individual med school. They have AdCom staff, they'll have some medical students that'll be in there. They change out their people all day long. It's not the same person. But you will get hardcore answers to questions that you need to ask. Also in that AAMC virtual event will be a chat room for the National Association of Healthcare Professional Advisors that you can ask questions of too. It's definitely a very high yield activity to be able to sit there and do it. I'm going to be there. I have a lot of my questions already answered, but I always have something new.
Yes, you always do, don't you? Learn something.
I do always have something new, because this is and my message to all of y'all on this thing, our event today, I used to look upon this whole process as very static on my part as an applicant, very static on the medical school's part. It's the same old, but it is not, y'all. This is incredibly fluid, incredibly dynamic, and it changes every single year on our part as an applicant and on the schools in admissions. Okay, I'm muting myself now.
Yeah, no, that's great. And the one other thing I'll add to that is they will have they'll have a few presentations along the way too. So then you come out, it's just like you were at a convention center. So you can go talk to people in their booths, but then you can also go to the auditorium and listen to a presentation, and they'll have applicant presentations and things like that.
One more thing, there'll be a function in most of those chat rooms for schools that you can download their PowerPoints where we'll have the data and the demographics. Not every school does that, but many do.
Yeah, good. So Evangelina, you got a plan? Yes. So you can, if you don't know, you can go to the AAMC website, and I'm sure they'll have a link there for their virtual medical school fair, and it's this Friday. 10 o'clock our time, Central Standard Time, I believe. I think it might start, what does that mean? Noon on the East Coast. Anyway, the details will be online there. We're going a little past our time, so let's take a couple of other questions. Well, Erin was in the Minority Fair in Phoenix. That's very cool. Teresa says, do you have to complete the MS degree before applying for medical school? You don't have to, but sometimes people are doing it to repair grades. And so we will not have new grades from that master's program while you're in it, right? So if you're doing it for grade repair, you could maybe apply the next year and use some of that extra time to do some community service or work on a personal growth plan. Let's do two more questions. Let's see. Will this conference be saved? Yes. And it's Zoom, and I think it's so much easier. We lost some of our WebEx recordings because, and we're gonna eventually soon put all these on a private sort of YouTube channel. Well, I don't know, private or access. If you join the club, then you get access to the YouTube channel. So we're figuring that out. So yes, we're gonna save it. And Sydney, what did you say? Any last tips? Be strong, be positive, keep it in front. I know people who have worked on this. We look around and we see, gosh, we see people and we say, gosh, how did you do that? And it looks so easy for the next person. And we think we're having a hard path, and you just need to hang in there. Those would be my tips, because I realize it's hard. Work hard, get help, and it's worth it. You know, if it's calling your heart, then, you know, it's a calling. And so keep working on it and find a way to fulfill that. So thank you all. I'm checking just to make sure there's not, do I have hands here? Evangelina, you're good, right? And yeah, so thank you all for helping me navigate this Zoom. I give it a thumbs up. I hope you all liked it, and keep in touch. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Very, very fun for me. One of my favorite things to do is spend time with y'all. So in 2 weeks and in 4 weeks, we're doing this again. This was Q&A. We might put, okay, can y'all vote out there? Can y'all, do y'all see that you've got a thumbs up or not? I think, can't you put a thumbs up there? Yeah, okay. So let's take a vote. Petros Minosi is gonna give his MCAT talk, and we can either do it next in 2 weeks, which makes it what? April the 4th, I believe. Tuesday, April the 4th at noon, or 7th. It's the 7th and the 21st. So in 2 weeks, you want it in 2 weeks or in a month? How about next time in 2 weeks? Who votes for MCAT as the next topic versus like personal statement? So how many for MCAT? I think that's a valuable one. Yes? Any no? So, okay, so now take your hands away. How many for, and I don't know how many people I see on the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 5. Can I see more? Anyway, who would want personal statement? I think you've got time for that. Okay. Okay, so MCAT wins. Sorry, Syed and Udochukwu. We'll do that next. Okay. If you're desperate to get started, you email me and I'll send you some things I have on it. Okay. So thank you so much for being with us at Club PreMed at Long School of Medicine, and I enjoyed chatting with y'all. Take care, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay. Y'all stay safe, but connect. Find ways to safely connect with people so you don't lose that connection. Okay. All right. Bye-bye now.
Quick question.
Yes.
Do I just need to join the Club PreMed, fill out that form to get in on all these emails, or?
Yes. Who's this?
Jacob Summers.
Jacob. So Jacob, how we must have emailed you a link, right?
Someone posted this on Facebook.
Oh, okay. So you won't miss out for sure if you go to the Club PreMed, go to Long School of Medicine, you'll find our PreMed, go to admissions, you'll find a PreMed area, and it says join Club PreMed. That we then take your email and it goes on a perpetual list until you tell us to take it off.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, you're so welcome. Y'all have a great 2 weeks. I'll see you then. Bye. Good luck, everybody. Keep working hard.